Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video. As you may have seen from other videos, my name is Gerard. I go by Jay. I want to first thank you guys for watching. I know you're used to seeing Real's face pop up as the first face you see is his channel. But we've decided to kind of do something a little bit different this go around. And from NFL perspective, we're going to be seeing more things on the channel from myself and from Real's cousin Will to kind of add a different wrinkle to the channel, and hopefully be able to provide some context from that perspective. So what we'll be doing is a weekly predictions video. We'll be going over each game for the upcoming week and making our picks to determine who will win the game. No gambling bets or gambling picks or over-unders or spreads or anything like that. Just two guys who love the game, football, just chopping it up about the upcoming week and making our picks as to who we think are going to win each individual game. We'll tally up our scores week to week and have results for the previous week in the next video and kind of keep track of each of our individual picks to see at the end of the season who's got the most correct picks. So that should be fun and certainly entertaining as well. Will won't be with us for this particular video, but stay tuned for later on in the week where he and I will be on giving our predictions in terms of division winners, playoff teams, and individual Super Bowl winners. And Will be able to join me starting next week with week 2's predictions. So without further ado, I will go ahead and get started with doing the predictions for week 1 NFL, which starts on Thursday nights, and that is going to be a game between the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, Kansas City is coming off winning the Super Bowl, and so I think expectations are certainly high for that team. Houston also has a lot of eyes on them because of the changes they made during the offseason. Chief among them was trading away DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson and like a bag of Skittles, I think it was, and this WNBA hoodie, which they just gave it to me, so I was appreciative of that. But it'll be interesting to see how Houston, is able to move forward, not having one of the better wide receivers in the league, certainly top 3 in my opinion. They did pick up Brandon Cooks in the offseason as well as former Cowboy Randall Cobb. They already had Kenny Stills. They already had Will Fuller. So they still have a loaded offense. And I think a lot of expectations are still there for David Johnson to contribute to have a good year as well. Their offensive line is still a bit of a question, so I'm not sure how well that'll go with Deshaun, considering that he seems to get banged up every year because he's running for his life in the pocket, a lot of the time. So I think from a defensive perspective, they haven't really gotten better, but they haven't gotten worse either. Of course, we know the playoff game last year where the Houston Texans were up by 24, and they gave up 57 points in the second half to lose that game against the Chiefs. And so I'm sure that's on their mind as well. As far as this game goes, from a Kansas City Chiefs perspective, they have drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which is their running back. They drafted at the end of the first round. They expect a lot of big things from him, and I think it's warranted. But he's a smaller guy. I think that's worth mentioning. So his durability may come into question at some point. But the way he played at LSU, his elusiveness, his speed, will certainly translate in the NFL, I feel like. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is that dude. There's no question about that. They didn't lose any weapons, which is insane. They have the majority of their core back from the last year. And so based off of that, there's no reason to really feel like they're not going to win this game. The one thing I will say is I think that Houston's getting written off without much consideration, and I think that's a mistake. I think they do have the ability to make this a close game, but I do see at the end of the day, I do see Kansas City coming away with the win in that one and starting off their defending campaign with a 1-0 record. Moving on to Sunday's games, the early games on the docket, and this is week 1, so there's going to be 16 games. All 32 teams are playing, so we'll try to make this video as quick as possible. So the first game is going to be the Eagles versus Washington. I think that's pretty much you can book it that the Eagles win that game. I think Washington just has too much stuff going on right now. Ron Rivera recently being diagnosed with cancer, obviously thoughts with him and well wishes with him and his family. Certainly want to wish him the best moving forward. But even that withstanding, just the black cloud that's over that franchise right now, that whole franchise, not just the team, but the franchise in general is in a rebuild right now. And so I don't know how much that translates into the field. But I do think that they have a lot to be desired from the offensive perspective. We know about Scary Terry McLaurin, Dwayne Haskins, still not really sure. I think the jury is still out with him. They cut Adrian Peterson, but it's kind of interesting because we don't really know definitively who they're going to have be their main guy from a running back position. And so having a running back by committee to me means they're not sure of what they have. A lot of good things came out of camp regarding Antonio Gibson. I think they have J.D. McKissick there as well. So it'll be a toss-up to see what they end up doing with the running game. But the fact that they aren't sure definitely raises a red flag for me. And the Eagles did improve defensively. They have a lot of guys up front that can wreak havoc if the offensive line for Washington isn't ready to go. They got Darius Slay in free agency. So they have some pieces that can make things difficult. And so I don't see a scenario where Washington wins unless Carson Wentz ends up getting hurt, which, it's not outside of the realm of possibility. So if he's able to stay healthy in that game, and there may be a caveat I use every week with him because you just never know. But if he's able to stay healthy in that game, I definitely have the Eagles winning that game for sure. Next game is the Dolphins versus the Patriots. That's going to be a better game than I think people realize. And the reason why I say that is because Miami definitely got better last year, or in the offseason specifically. They got better last year as well towards the end of the year. I think they surprised teams, including the Patriots, who they beat last year. I think the Dolphins' defense got a lot better, obviously adding Byron Jones to be on the opposite side of the field of Xavier and Howard. Those are two stout defenders, and I think they could really make things difficult for New England's receiving core, which did not really improve from last year to this year. Obviously, Cam Newton coming in brings new life to this franchise after losing Tom Brady to the Bucs. So I think there's some optimism there, and there's a reason for the optimism. But I think week 1, it's hard for me to bet against the Patriots. It really is, just because I know who's the coach there. And, the Dolphins are a familiar opponent. They are in the AFC East as well. And so I feel like this one's kind of a toss-up. But, the thing about this, I think that this is going to be one of the things to consider throughout the year is the fact that there are very few teams that are going to have crowds in the stands. And so that home field advantage essentially goes away. This game is in Foxborough, but I really feel like without having the crowd there, it's a neutral site game. And I think with neutral sites, I think Miami wins that game. So I'm going to go with Miami beating the Patriots week 1. Not with a lot of confidence, though, I'm being honest. But I think it's the Dolphins in that one. Next game, the Green Bay Packers visiting the Minnesota Vikings. This one took a little bit of a turn for me when I found out that Danielle Hunter will be out for at least the first 3 weeks of the season. That really hurts Minnesota. The fact that they got rid of Everson Griffin makes things really difficult. They did trade for Nick Ngakoue, so that definitely helps, and it certainly proves to be beneficial now that they just lost Danielle Hunter for at least the first 3 games of the year. But I don't know about that defense. They lost a lot of guys. There's some turnover for sure from last year to this year, which A lot of the turnover made sense. I think there were some guys getting old in that secondary, and so I understand the changes. But it's just unproven. And when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers on the other side who can seemingly pinpoint when there are advantages to take advantage of, I think you run the risk of it being a long day for your secondary. From a Green Bay perspective, the defense was really great last year, and I don't believe they lost anybody, so they're only going to be better than what they were. I feel like now that they have time to gel and get comfortable in their roles. Um, I think there's a lot to be desired from the wide receiver position in Green Bay. I think it's easy to bracket Devontae Adams and let the other guys beat you. But the problem is you got Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball, so he makes anybody better, I think. Um, this one's a tough one to pick, but I really feel like the Vikings losing Danielle Hunter is going to make things easier for Aaron Rodgers and hence more difficult for the Vikings. And so I'm going to pick Green Bay to win this game. Next game, Jaguars versus the Colts in Jacksonville. The Colts are going to win. We'll move on to the next game. Next game is the Bears visiting the Detroit Lions. That game, I think, is going to go the way of Detroit. I have to see Mitchell Trubisky prove that he can be depended on to lead that offense. The defense is not a problem. I don't have to worry about the defense. Defense is great. The problem is that defense is being wasted by a very anemic offense. David Montgomery last year was a rookie who was highly touted out of Iowa State. He thought he was going to be a guy who can come in and be a difference maker, and he didn't do that. And so we'll see how he does this year. I think they really expected more out of him last year, and him not producing really made things difficult because Tariq Cohen is more of a flash guy who's going to give you, explosive plays here and there, but can't be counted on as dependable every down back. And so they really need Montgomery to step up. I don't think their offensive line is very good, so that makes things difficult as well. So I have to go with Detroit only because they're the other team. And if it comes down to quarterback play, I'm going to definitely trust Matthew Stafford way before I trust Mitch Trubisky. And they've already verified and confirmed that, at least for week one, Trubisky will be starting over Nick Foles. And so based off that, I have to go with Detroit. Next game is going to be the Carolina Panthers hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. This game, I think, is going to go the way of the Panthers. And the reason why I say that is because them having a new regime with Matt Rule, teams don't have any sort of tape on what they're going to do. They have no tape on them. And especially with this not having the preseason, they have literally nothing. And I don't think the Raiders' defense is good enough to be able to combat that. And so I have the Panthers winning this game. I think it'll be closer than it should be because I think, the Panthers should handle them pretty easily, but I feel like Josh Jacobs can run over these guys on the Carolina defense and make things interesting. So I expect a big game from him as well as Christian McCaffrey, and I'm rooting for Teddy Bridgewater to have a game as well. A good season, really. So I'm going to go with the Panthers in that game. Next game, the Jets visiting the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills walk the dog with these guys. I just don't have any faith in the Jets at all whatsoever. And I think this could be a statement game for the Bills. This is the first time in a very long time the Bills are favored to win the division. And I feel like they have something to prove in terms of validating that prediction. And this is a perfect opportunity to do that. They can't let these guys hang around. They need to put them away early. They have a very stout defense. They just traded for Stephon Diggs. So he should help that offense. That was already solid. They weren't a bad offense, but I think now that Josh Allen has a bona fide number one receiver, that takes them to a different level. And so I see them mopping the floor with the Jets in this game for sure. Next game is the Browns visiting the Ravens. The Ravens will win this game. I think it'll be closer than people think. And I believe Cleveland beat Baltimore in Baltimore last year. and Cleveland got better, at least offensively. The issue's going to be Baker Mayfield. Who do we see? What Baker do we see? The Ravens defense obviously losing Earl Thomas, but still having, their core group intact. And you could potentially look at that team and say the defense got better without having Earl Thomas out at locker room. That's possible, and I think the chemistry they have certainly may outweigh the deficiency of losing that caliber of a safety in the backfield or on the back line. The Browns certainly have the potential to win, but there has to be mistake-free play from Baker. He can't throw any picks. He can't fumble the ball. They got to have big games on everybody. And I think even if they have big games on everybody, whether that's Baker, Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Hooper, they just signed. I can't remember if they signed him or they traded him for him. I believe they signed him in free agency. But either way, all those guys can have the game of their life, but they still will be better than Lamar Jackson. And I feel like Lamar Jackson has something to prove, which sounds weird for a guy coming off his MVP season. But I think if you look at the way they got booted out of the playoffs, you're going to start to hear rumblings if they don't do well this year. And they'll certainly start if they don't win this game. I feel like they will win this game. I know for sure they'll have some fans. I don't know about the percentage of fans they'll have, but I don't think it'll matter. I think that they beat the Browns in this game. Next game was the Seahawks visiting Atlanta. I definitely picked the Seahawks in this one. I just don't trust the Falcons at all. I don't have any reason to. I would say have Julio Jones. I think that this could be a Calvin Ridley breakout year for sure. And, of course, they have Todd Gurley playing running back there, who I think is going to have a great year. I really do. I think getting out of the high level of expectations that he had with the Rams, especially after signing that deal to become the highest paid running back, I think there was too much pressure for him. I think he goes back to Atlanta in his home state, and I think he has a good year. But they ain't beating the Seahawks, so I'm picking the Seahawks people. Next game is Cincinnati taking on the Chargers. I actually like Cincinnati this year, just not in this game. And this one may be a close game. It really may. But I just feel like even with Cincinnati going on the road, with the Chargers going on the road, that they have the better team top to bottom. I think their defense is top 10 in the league, and they are ready to give Joey Burrow fits. I think Joey Burrow will play well, but when you got Joey Bosa on the other side, they just signed Chris Harris Sr. over there. Obviously, they lost Derwin James, but I think they have enough pieces to, I won't say accommodate for that, but to at least minimize the impact of losing a guy like Derwin James, particularly in this game. Joe Mixon may have a game, though. He might. But I picked the Chargers to win this game. I think it'll be close for sure. Next game, Chargers versus the 49ers. The Cardinals versus the 49ers. This one I'm going to pick the 49ers, but I think it's going to be a close game. All NFC West games are close and low scoring. I think it's just like standard for the NFC West. So I do think it'll be a low scoring game. And I do think it's possible that Kyler Murray could be the way they win that game, but San Francisco's defense is so stout and so good and fast, and just they're a beast of a defensive unit. So I think having them be the first team that you play with, getting DeAndre Hopkins, it makes things difficult. It really does. And I just can't see them beating this team. One thing I'll say real quick about the Cardinals before I move on. Kenyon Drake is really a big question mark for me. And I know a lot of people feel like he is ready to go this year. But if you look at last year, when he first got to Arizona, he was like running amok. But those last few games, he came back to earth. And so I'm a little hesitant to really crown him like everybody else is. I understand the optimism. I really do. And I think the fact that you have a guy like Nuke or DeAndre Hopkins now, it makes things easier for the run game because they can't crowd the box because you have DeAndre Hopkins, you have Christian Kirk, you have Larry Fitzgerald. And so I think having those three guys makes the box easier to run in. And so I think he has an opportunity there. He's in Miami. They always had the box because they didn't have faith in the passing game. Now he's going to have those cleaner boxes where he can maneuver and do well. So I'm not saying I think he's going to have a bad year. I just want to pump the brakes on him being a breakout running back this year. But I think Cardinals are for sure a team to watch, and we'll talk about that with Will this weekend in regards to who we like in the NFC West. But for this particular game, I'm going with San Francisco. Next game is America's Game of the Week. Tampa Bay Bucks versus the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Saints are legit. We know this. But I'm trying to think. Any of you guys can help me out in the comments. I'm trying to decide or remember if I recall the Bucks making any sort of off-season moves. I don't really remember them doing anything. The Bucks probably had the most quiet off-season in the league, right? Because I can't think of any. Oh, that's right. They got Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, and they just signed Leonard Fournette. So I guess it did kind of make a little bit of noise, huh? I think the Saints, without giving too much away as far as predictions that Will and I will do over the weekend, I think the Saints are a little bit too proud, and I think they kind of just assume that they're going to walk through this division. Whoever wins this game, I think, really stakes their claim for the NFC South. The game is in New Orleans, and I don't know if they're going to have any fans, so I don't think there's going to be much of a home field advantage there outside of just being the dome. But Tom Brady is scared of that. You know, there's discussion about Mike Evans, whether he'll be available or not. That could sway how the game goes if he's not able to go. Say what they want, and you can say what you want about the Bucks. After Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who are their other receivers? So if he doesn't play, it could change things, but they do still have O.J. Howard. They do still have Cameron Brate. They do still have Rob Gronkowski. So they can even say, all right, well, we'll just play two tight ends the whole game, which they could. And that makes it more difficult from a matchup perspective. But if there's a team that can match up, it's the Saints. Their defense is legit. I'm kind of going back and forth here because I'm still really not really sure who to pick, to be honest. I will say, though, from the Saints' perspective, if I'm honest, I think, and this may sound like duh, but I really feel like this team goes however Drew Brees is able to go. And the reason why I say that is I'm not sure that we're going to get the same Drew Brees that everybody expects. And the reason why I say that is because we've seen recent examples of Drew Brees kind of sputtering out, particularly towards the end of the year. And they've been a benefit of being in a division that's kind of weak, so they haven't really had to sweat too much. But if Drew Brees' decline, because if you recall 2 years ago, his decline didn't really start until the playoffs. And then last year, his decline kind of started at the end of the regular season. So it's starting to kind of, that decline is starting to kind of slip, closer and closer to, relevancy in terms of the regular season is concerned. They haven't really had to worry about that because they've had the division kind of tied up for a while. But this year is not the year to have a slip up, particularly with that team in Tampa Bay. And so I really do think whoever wins this game, it could go a long way in terms of the way the division goes. Because I certainly feel like the division goes by whoever wins those two matchups against these two teams. I'm gonna stop stalling now and make a pick. To hell with it. I'm gonna go with Bucks. I'm gonna go with the Bucks. The thing about this year that's unique is the fact that these teams that have a lot of turnover have an advantage initially because nobody has tape on them. And it's like the rookies, like when Dak and Zeke in 2016, nobody had tape on them, and it made things difficult. It was like last year with the Cowboys when they went 3-0. Kellen Moore is the new OC. Nobody had tape on them. And then they kind of regressed because Jason Garrett decided to change things up. But, also because there was tape to figure out what was happening, and then teams adjusted. So I certainly feel like the first few weeks of the season are an opportunity for those teams to steal some games that they may not be able to win in week 8, 9, or 10, just because there isn't enough tape to really dictate what they're going to do. So it makes it difficult. I think in-game adjustments are going to be important in these type of games. And so, you can make the argument about, if it comes down to coaching, who do you pick in that game? And you would probably go with the Saints because of Sean Payton. But I'm going to go with Tampa Bay in that game. All right, the real main event of the week is going to be your Dallas Cowboys going to be against the LA Rams. Now, for those that don't know, you're going to see me on here. I'm a Cowboys fan. You're going to see Will on here. He's a Cowboys fan. So we're born and raised in Dallas. We came out of our, out of the wombs as Cowboys fans. It won't change. But I'm not going to pick the Cowboys every week. I'm picking them this week, though. They're beating the Rams. I just don't trust Jared Goff. I think when you have to have your coach, Sean McVay, literally talking to you into your ear up until the last possible second, reading the defense and dictating based off what the coach sees what Jared Goff should do, that's not good. That's not good. You paid this guy all his money. He can't read defenses and dictate what play makes sense for that specific formation that you see on the field. That's tough. That's tough. So I don't have trust in him. Obviously, their defense is what it is. He just re-signed Jalen Ramsey, which he deserved it. So congrats to him. But I just don't think it's enough. Unless Aaron Donald completely wrecks the game. And Aaron Donald could completely wreck this game for sure. We don't have Travis Frederick anymore. So our inside is a little vulnerable. We were missing Lyle Collins for the first 3 games of the season, which sucks as well. So there are certainly some vulnerabilities there. I don't want to make like there's not. But I feel like there's more uncertainty on the Rams side. They got rid of Todd Gurley. And so I think they had Cam Akers as their starting running back, but it'll probably be running back by committee, which to me means you don't really know. So I think there are more question marks on the Rams offense. There are certainly question marks on the Cowboys defense, but I feel like they're going to get better with time. I feel like that front 7 is going to be a beast, though, and that can make things difficult for Jared Goff and their running game as well. And so I think the Cowboys have a lot to prove in this game, and I want the Cowboys to go to SoFi Stadium and hang an L on the Rams to open up their stadium, just like the Giants came and hung an L on the Cowboys to open up Jerry World. So I want to see that same type of energy, and I picked the Cowboys to beat the LA Rams in the game. Monday Night Football, Week 1, the tradition to have 2 games, and just like tradition, they're going to do the same thing in these games or this year as well. So the first game in Monday Night Football is going to be the Steelers visiting the Giants. The Steelers are going to mop the floor with the Giants. I don't have any faith in them. They have Saquon Barkley, and they have Jason Garrett, who will run the ball. So I think Barkley will get a ton of touches in this game, but that Steelers defense is no joke. I think they're the best defense in the league, and they're going to prove it in this game. I have them beating the Giants in New jersey. And the last game of the week, the Tennessee Titans visiting the Denver Broncos. I got the Titans in this one only because I don't know how the Broncos make up for losing Von Miller so close to the season opener. I don't know how they do that. Jadeveon Clowney is going to be there. I'm not sure if he's going to be cleared to play in week 1, but them having an extra game, the extra day, and it being on Monday night does make the odds a little bit better. So I'm not really sure what happens there, but I don't think it matters. We'll see for sure what happens with Tannehill getting his extension, how much it affects them, if they feel like they have to throw the ball because they gave him that money. But they also extended Derrick Henry, so I feel like they'll give him the ball when they need to, and he'll be the bell cow. I think they know where their bread is buttered, and it's buttered by establishing the run to dictate the pass. And hopefully they don't feel like they have to throw the ball and get pass happy because they pay Tannehill. That's a big mistake if they go that route. As far as Denver goes, like I said, they're going to have a hard time trying to figure out how to offset the loss of Von Miller. But they have some pieces that they should be really excited about. They got Jerry Jeudy in the draft. They got Melvin Gordon. They already had Cortland Sutton. And so they have Noah Fant as well. And they have Drew Lock, who they feel like is their quarterback of the future. And I like Drew Lock. I think he's had potential to be a top 15 quarterback at some point. And why not start this year? So I think their future is bright overall, but I have the Titans winning this game. I feel like the Titans have some improve this year, and why not start out Monday Night Football with the bright lights, getting a win at Mile High Stadium. So those are my picks, and as I stated, we'll kind of start a tally next week where Will is able to join me. But this weekend, look out for the video where we do predictions, where we're predicting the season all the way out from the division winners to playoff teams to all the way to the Super Bowl and who we think is going to win. So thank you guys. As always, please like and subscribe. Thank you for your time, and go Cowboys.